So here we are, Thanksgiving Sunday. Thanksgiving isn't a Christian holiday, but the sentiment sure fits. We Christians are supposed to be good at gratitude. We are supposed to be grateful people. In fact, faith lends itself to making us grateful. The 10 leper story that Zach mentioned, that one leper who turned back just had to express his gratitude to Jesus. And all month long, we have been actually talking about some of the things that threaten to steal our gratitude, to chip away at our sense of living as a grateful people. We've been talking about the enemies of gratitude. I've talked about entitlement and worry and nostalgia, looking back through rose-colored glasses. And this Sunday, I'm talking about the challenge of distractions. And our passage today is from the Gospel of Luke, and it's a story of Jesus' visit to the home of two sisters. And I invite you to read along with me. It's from Luke chapter 10, beginning in verse 38. Now as they went on their way, he entered a certain village where a woman named Martha welcomed him into her home. She had a sister named Mary who sat at the Lord's feet and listened to what he was saying. But Martha was distracted by her many tasks. So she came to him and asked, "Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to do all the work by myself? Tell her then to help me." But the Lord answered her, "Martha, Martha, you are worried and distracted by many things. There is need of only one thing, and Mary has chosen the better part, which will not be taken away from her." So maybe this is just me and my personality, but I'm wondering if you have ever had someone call you and say, "Hey, I'm nearby, I'm in the area, I thought I would stop by," and you just as readily say, "Oh, absolutely, come, would love to see you," and as soon as you hang up the phone, you start doing the flight of the bumblebee around the house, shoving things in closets, barking orders like you're going to battle, and then when you open the door, you're trying not to look too out of breath and just breezy and casual as can be. Glad you're here. It's part of hosting. Our story talks about a surprise visit. Well, at least I imagine it must have been sort of a surprise because they don't have cell phones, they don't have mail, there was no Life 360 app on Jesus watching his every step. He shows up at the home of these two sisters, and they immediately welcome him in. Martha is the one who actually welcomes him in. And let's be clear here. Jesus comes with a posse. He comes with disciples. He's not by himself. He travels with others. And hospitality is a huge part of Middle Eastern Jewish culture. To welcome in a stranger, to welcome in a guest to your home, to feed them, to give them something to drink. This was and is vitally important. There are tons of examples of welcoming the stranger or the foreigner in your midst. It is biblically important. And this is how Jesus spent his ministry. He had no home. He visited other people's homes. And so we see two sisters responding to Jesus showing up in their living room. When they arrive, Martha welcomes Jesus and the disciples in. She gets to work taking care of the disciples and her guests. She's being a good host, offering the best place to sit, getting everyone something to drink. Maybe she's running to the nearest well to get more water for the large crowd. She's starting to prepare food. She's getting things done. That's what Martha does. And where's Mary? Where's her sister Mary and all this is happening? Well, she's sitting at Jesus' feet. She's not going to miss a single word of Jesus sitting there in her living room. She's not missing it. Now, this is a moment that scholars often point out as being quite significant. We sort of miss it. But to first century listeners, they would have noticed. They would have even perhaps been shocked by this. Mary is sitting at Jesus' feet. That is the posture of a rabbi to a student. She's Jesus is teaching her, a woman, and she is soaking it up, every single bit of it. Now, I don't have sisters. I actually have two brothers, but I feel like I can imagine how this family scenario played out that day. I mean, you can see Martha welcoming everyone in. Everyone has smiles on their faces. Y'all sit down. We'll get you something to drink. We'll get you something to drink. Martha goes into the kitchen. She starts to work. She's ready for Mary to join her in the kitchen. Mary's not coming. So, she bangs a few pots and pans around to hope to get Mary's attention so she remembers her task here, and still she's not coming. You see Martha walk back into the room with a bunch of drinks, and then she gives Mary the look. The look that all family members are able to communicate what they need to tell the other person with just their eyes. You know, that death stare that grandparents are good at sometimes, that look that we can tell each other what we need to say. And Mary saw that look. She saw Martha make eye contact with her, and she totally ignored it. And that is when Martha loses it. If she can't make her sister get in the kitchen, well, guess who can? Jesus can do it. Jesus, make her get in that kitchen and help me. Make her come in and help me. Know your place. Be a good host. And that's when Jesus says, Martha, Martha, you are worried and distracted by many things. Martha, Martha, you are worried and distracted by many things. There's need of only one thing, and Mary has chosen the better part. You are worried and distracted. I read that sentence to myself this week. You are worried and distracted by many things. He says Martha, but I wonder how many of us in the room today could just as easily put our own names in that sentence. You are worried and distracted by many things. Now, when I was choosing scriptures months ago, I actually thought maybe I actually shouldn't choose this one today on Thanksgiving week of all weeks. I mean, first of all, where would we be without the Marthas of the world? Some of the Marthas of the world are right now in our gymnasium kitchen ready to welcome all of us to come eat. Those pumpkin pies don't make themselves. Somebody gets up early and sets their alarm to get that turkey in the oven so that everybody else can show up on time. Marthas take care of the details. They are good hosts. They clean, they cook, they plan, they welcome. These are the responsible, dedicated, hardworking people that get things done. Sometimes, when we hear this story, it actually gets told as if Jesus is scolding Martha. Shame on you, Martha. But the truth is, I don't think he's so much shaming her as much as he is inviting her to something else. In fact, the story of the Good Samaritan, that story that involves a lot of work, where a Samaritan stops and helps a man left beaten and robbed for dead. And he takes him to an inn, and he helps him to heal, and he pays the doctor bill and the inn bill, and he goes back and checks on him. Well, guess what? That's a lot of work to do that. And Jesus tells that story and says, go and do likewise. So here we are. Now we're in Mary and Martha's house. And here he is saying, you are worried and distracted by many things. Martha's so busy right now. She is so busy. I know I sound like I'm about to start a joke. She's so busy. She is too busy for Jesus. Jesus is actually in her living room, and she is going, and she's missing it. Like the man with the plates spinning at the circus, keeping all those plates spinning in the air. Sometimes some of us are so good at going, but we realize that if we stop, we fear that it could all come crashing in around you. Jesus sees her. He sees that. He sees it. And that's actually what we see in the Gospels again and again and again. We see it in the story of Zacchaeus. We see it when Jesus meets the woman at the well. We see it with blind Bartimaeus yelling at Jesus for his attention. Jesus sees people. He sees the hurting and the outcast and the hungry and the poor and even the ones who are so filled with worry and distractions. All the people just barely holding on right now. He sees them. And maybe that doesn't sound like much to you today. Maybe it doesn't, unless you have ever been that person where you feel like nobody actually knows how hard you're working, how hard you're trying just to keep all those plates still spinning in the air. You are worried and distracted by many things, and He sees you. And He invites Martha to stop with all her distractions, if even for just a small while, and to fill her own cup up at Jesus' feet. You know, I'm not sure what your Thanksgiving table will look like this year. You know, TV dinner, paper plates, fine family china. Maybe you'll be around a restaurant table or a kitchen table or a dining room table or the card table in your grandmother's kitchen that we lovingly refer to as the kiddie table. I served my time there at the kiddie table. Whatever your Thanksgiving table looks like this week, I want to invite you to remember something. Just one thing, really, just one thing. I invite you to remember that Jesus is still showing up. He's still showing up and inviting us to choose the better part. And I wonder what that might be for you this week. What distractions are keeping you from choosing the better part? Because when you gather around your Thanksgiving table this year, I hope you pray. I hope you pray. But I also hope you pause for a moment and actually take some time to name some words of gratitude. Actually say it out loud. You know, sometimes I think we all know it already, so we don't need to say it. But I hope you just take a moment to name some words of gratitude out loud and to pause and to look around you. Because I think that when we do that, when the meal is done and you get up from the table, maybe, just maybe, more than your belly will be filled. Amen.